联合国人居署执行主任罗斯巴赫接受高端访谈独家专访。住房危机影响全球近30亿人，他呼吁
The global solidarity is needed. That there's no way out.
亲眼见证中国城市建设的巨变。他建议
The Chinese transformation is really amazing. We should also talk more about Chinese experiences and disseminate more.
赞赏中国的城镇化进程和发展理念。他强调
China's cities being people-centered. This is the way, all cities have to go.
高端访谈专访联合国人居署执行主任罗斯巴赫，敬请收看。
关注国际焦点，洞察世界风云。大家好，欢迎收看本期高端访谈，我是王冠。今天我们来到了位于肯尼亚首都内罗毕的联合国人居署总部，即将在这里对话联合国人居署执行主任安娜·克劳迪亚·罗斯巴赫女士。拥有和美宜居的家园是人类共同的向往。当下我们离这个目标还有多远？如何才能实现？在城市治理、生态环保、智慧城市等方面做出诸多有益探索的中国，为提升世界人居水平贡献了怎样的智慧？为实现2030联合国可持续发展目标付出了怎样的努力？让我们一起在对话中寻找答案。
位于肯尼亚首都内罗毕的联合国人居署，全称联合国人类住区规划署。它的前身是成立于1978年的联合国人居中心，致力于推动构建社会和环境方面可持续发展的城镇和城市，实现为所有人提供合适居所的目标。同时，通过支持城市发展和规划，推动经济增长和社会发展，减少贫困和不平等。2001年，联合国大会通过决议，将人居中心升格为联合国人居署。
Under Secretary General Rosbach, good to see you again.
Wonderful to see you again. Welcome to Nairobi. Welcome to UN Habitat.
Thank you so much. I think it's only fitting that the headquarters of UN Habitat has picked this very country and this very location.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Agree with you. It's together with UNEP. It's one of the two headquarters, global headquarters, in the global south.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting that we're talking about the UN organizations dealing with climate, but also cities in the same headquarters. Yeah.
Yes. And here we do see a lot of different things coexisting. We went to the national park where leopards, lions, rhinos, they're, happily, living with one another. And also in the distance, you see skyscrapers such as Global Trade Center, redefining Nairobi's skylines.
Probably saw my building where I live too. I feel it's just fantastic because in a way, it reflects and illustrates how we should live, right? And respect biodiversity and how urban settings should harmonize, as you said.
You went to China for World Cities Day China Observance event, where my organization, China Media Group, is a key media partner, and I had the privilege of hosting the event where you attended to give where you gave a very thought-provoking speech in Weihai.
Have I?
Yeah, you did. You quoted a very important concept of China, that is, clean waters and green mountains.
Should we sit a bit?
Yeah. And green mountains are, are mountains of gold and silver. It's a metaphor saying that good ecology is invaluable. I think that quote from you resonated a lot with the Chinese.
The Chinese transformation is really amazing. I like to talk about Chinese cities because I went there last year, and before I was there around 2012. It struck me totally arriving in Beijing 13 years after and seeing, all this transformation. I almost couldn't recognize the city. The first time I went there, it was noisy. It was kind of gray and foggy. I couldn't even realize the green spaces, you know. But I had a quite different idea of the city. And this time, I saw a very vibrant, clean city, lots of public spaces. Yeah, the noise has disappeared because of the electric vehicles.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of electric vehicles with green plates, license plates.
With the green plates. So this was very, very interesting for me. I went to the Olympic site, the bird nest, and I saw how I saw the legacy of it, which is a critical aspect of our work too. We do work with cities, you know, that are hosting big events, major events. So for me, it was very important to see how Beijing was able to, you know, utilize this space that was completely transformed during the Olympic Games. So today I saw elderly people living there, but also enjoying the public spaces, families with young kids playing around. I was in a normal weekday, and I really could see people, you know, using the public spaces and enjoying it. I was really impressed.
What about the other aspects of your China tour? We understand that you went to Shanghai, checked out the senior citizens' home based out of a community. They played some music for you.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So this is about urban renewal, right? I think two aspects in Shanghai called my attention. One is, this urban renewal project where the city was able to recycle and reuse existing buildings. And this is critical now to preserve the environment, right? We really need to make sure that we maximize what we have already built. And connecting, you know, this neighborhood with services, amenities. So the idea of proximity, so having in a neighborhood, walking distance, the seniors kind of space, community center, but also places for children, kindergarten, clinic, right? And public spaces, everything walking distance, little business around, connected to residences. So this was very interesting. I don't think people know much about these Chinese experiences of urban renewal. So this is one thing from China that I think we should also talk more about here at UN Habitat, and disseminate more. And the other is along the river in Shanghai, you know. So I believe there are 40 kilometers of now river parks where you can walk and cycle, and where the city was able to transform the building environment into public spaces and reutilize buildings that were previously used for, I don't know, warehouses, industry, and so on, for other types of use, right? And also the concept or the technology of sponge cities utilized along the river, smaller scales, bigger scale. So these two aspects were very, called my attention, in Shanghai.
Okay, madam, I think we're good, we're great at this point, and then let's go back to the main interview room.
Okay.
So I think the lifestyle spaces that you saw in Shanghai and are all part of, you know, a campaign that helps Chinese to relax, to enjoy your urban life and to live the life instead of being anxious.
Yeah, I like that very much. So when I think about, you know, how cities were built in China, and then from the massive housing production that at a certain point was really needed to shelter people living in very precarious conditions, right? And to guarantee that workers would have at least a shelter over their heads, and the culture of productivity and work. And this massive housing production has also generated effects in the economy, in China's GDP, created jobs, labor, etc.
I agree. You're arguing and stuff.
Of how simply you can just use, you know, cities in the world,
Let's talk about China's urbanization. What do you think are the most notable and remarkable things about China's urbanization campaign?
So to start with, China was able to lift 800 million out of poverty and then go into a path of urbanization. I think this is a critical message, especially if you look at countries in Africa that are still experiencing, you know, this urban transformation, let's say this urbanization process. We'll have in the next 25 years about 800 million people coming into cities in Africa. And but also Latin America, you have high prevalence of poverty, Asian countries. The importance of cities to overcome poverty is critical. So I think we should note that, right? Housing people in cities where people can have access to education, to jobs, to opportunities, where people can have access to health services and stay healthy. So this is one critical information that we should work on and should be part of the narrative. And then not only lifting people out of poverty, but also the idea of providing, territories, providing spaces where people can live in a harmonious way with each other, enjoy the proximity of services, enjoy the proximity to cultural, leisure, sports, we spoke before, right? Opportunities, economic opportunities, and just enjoy the public spaces, enjoy the green spaces, and this harmony with the nature that we spoke before.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, Undersecretary General, about your China trip last year. You were shown around also a whole range of projects featuring smart cities, urban city living philosophies. What were the things that impressed you the most?
So I think China is evolving a lot in terms of smart living, let's say so. I visited some prototypes of homes that are impressively smart that caught my attention. I thought it was very, very interesting. But also the urban renewal projects that I saw.
But the smart city thing, exactly how smart?
Well, I was talking about the housing first, right? The prototypes of housing that can maximize the living space in a way that you can use the house in a very smart way in terms of the space that the house offers and how you can transform spaces, even small spaces, you can transform, right? And you can maximize the use of a kitchen and the use of the living room and the bedroom, how all is transformed through technology, and you can have the different environments in a very small place change.
You think that's what we're headed in the near future, or is just a prototype of ideal housing?
I don't know. It's a prototype. But perhaps, yes, perhaps this is the way that we're going to live in the future. And China is looking at that, right? How we can maximize even smaller spaces in the cities for a family to live well. And then the technology in the cities itself, right? How the cities are being built and with the use of technology. I appreciate the concept or the technology of the sponge cities that can be used, if I understand correctly, micro, but also in large scale to help cities being more resilient to floods. This is a concept that other cities in the world are exploring. Right now, there is a project of UN Habitat, and the idea is to bring this concept to Brazilian cities. Yeah, Brazil had a major flood last year that affected the south part of Brazil, a big city, Porto Alegre, and flooding is affecting many Brazilian cities. So we are now supporting the transfer of this technology to Brazilian cities, but also exploring how it can also be applied here in Nairobi, which is also a city that has been pretty much affected to flooding. I saw this technology being used in Shanghai, along the rivers. This is very impressive.
Are you excited about all these applications that perhaps can be scalable and replicated in the global south, more cities, to more people?
I'm very excited. China is advancing a lot in terms of technology, and I think this know-how, this expertise can be very much used in many cities. One of the themes that we discussed in this assembly that we just concluded was smart cities, right? So we produced guidelines on people-centered smart cities, and we did that for being mandated by member states. And I think this coincides with the people-centered philosophy from China that we were just discussing before.
China has supported the causes and projects of UN Habitat, which in return has directed and helped with Chinese cities and their urban upgrading and urban living. What keywords would you use to describe the relations between China and UN Habitat at this point?
Solid, innovative.
Why?
So I think solid because there's a solid presence, right? At all levels. We have an office in China, but also we have strong collaboration here in Nairobi. China is part of course, the governance of UN Habitat and has been very present in the governance of UN Habitat. So China has been present here in Nairobi in headquarters, in helping us, shaping the decision-making process of UN Habitat, but also we collaborate there. And I think we have been also collaborating in terms of, using the expertise, as I just mentioned, the sponge cities, to be used in different contexts. So the exchanges of experiences and expertise has been also a way we partner with China. But innovative because I think about the Shanghai Awards, which is one of the initiatives where we collaborate.
Getting traction around the world.
It's getting traction. And you know what? Just recently I found out, we have a publication, a report on the Shanghai Awards, and I found out that it's the second most downloaded report.
Really?
From UN Habitat's website.
That's something.
Yeah. So innovative because of that, because I think the Shanghai Awards helps us to to map out innovation and to disseminate innovation. And it's gained traction. I agree with you. People are looking at that. Right now, the thing that I listen and hear most when I travel around, when I attend these events, when we co-host these events, and I have the opportunity to interact with cities, local governments or national governments, is they want to know what's going on everywhere. They want to know what are the practices. And they want, capacity building.
从全球范围来看，人类离人人享有适当住房这个目标还有很长的路要走。2025年5月29日至30日，第2届联合国人居大会续会在肯尼亚首都内罗毕召开。会上，联合国人居署执行主任阿纳克劳迪亚·罗斯巴赫表示，全球目前有超过28亿人住房条件不达标。 其中，超11亿人生活在贫民窟或非正规住区，超3亿人处于彻底无家可归状态。在非洲，62%的城市住宅是非正规的；在亚太地区，超过5亿人无法获得基本供水，超过10亿人的环境卫生需求无法得到保障。
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, as well as you yourself, kept emphasizing that as many as 2.8 billion people don't have adequate housing. If you do the math, that is 1 in 3 persons living on this planet. And that is shocking.
It is shocking, and you're right. Perhaps we that have the privilege of having a shelter, secure home, we don't realize that. Many times the inadequacy of housing is invisible. So you have people living in overcrowded apartments or houses that don't really correspond to the minimum standards of a healthy environment, let's say so. But many times it's visible. You see people living on the streets almost everywhere these days. We have, imagine, 300 million people homeless. These are the numbers that we have. Eventually, there are even more because there is some under sub-reporting. And in the Global South, in cities like Nairobi, where we are, or in Brazilian cities where I come from, you can see the slums, the informal settlements, the favelas, and these generated situations that are very precarious, with lack of access to water, sanitation, electricity, so the most basic services, right? And in many times not even recognized by the cities, by the countries, and living really in kind of marginalized situation.
I mean, you have been a long advocate of having housing policies and urban policies of human-centered, whereas in China, as you may have heard, we kept emphasizing that it is all about people. Cities are for the people, by the people. How do you see the synergy between these two philosophies?
No, I think this is the trend, and this is the way to go. It's very aligned to the mandate of UN Habitat, to the New Urban Agenda. The New Urban Agenda is a global commitment, and it advocates for people-centered urban policies, people-centered urban planning, advocates for housing at the center. The way we planned cities in the past used to be very, complex, technocrat, so people wouldn't understand, what was behind city planning and how you do that and who is in charge. And I think the way to go now is, kind of urban planning, or when we think about designing cities, building new cities, but how cities develop is, through plans that people understand, first of all, plans that respond to the needs of people, to the social needs, plans that are respectful to the environment, that incorporate the principle that is also at the New Urban Agenda, the principles of the social and the ecological functions of the land, that look at land use in a very smart way, that look to the future, how these cities are going to shelter their future citizens, the youth, the aging population, the migrants. How is it that a city will grow horizontally, vertically? Plans that we can agree upon as a society, plans that are built on a social contract, right, of an imagery or an expectation or an aspiration for a city. And for me, what you mentioned about China's cities being people-centered, this is the way, all cities have to go.
Madam Undersecretary General, you once lamented the manifold crises facing urban living, such as climate, such as conflicts and war, and such as geopolitical turmoil. In that regard, Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed a number of global initiatives to make this world a more sustainable place, namely building a community of shared future for mankind, the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and also Global Civilization Initiative, helping cultures understand each other more. What do you think are the merits of these initiatives in this day and age for perhaps offering a viable path towards more sustainable urban living?
I see these global initiatives as a way also to comprehend better what's going on everywhere and to build conduits. I think the global solidarity, well, of course, we both know that it's needed, right? That there's no way out. I do believe that it's important that all member states, and governments, let's say so, are, engaged globally. And this is actually the nature of the UN. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Undersecretary General Rosbach, thank you so much for this opportunity, and you're welcome to China again.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward.
在刚刚结束的专访当中，罗斯巴赫女士对中国在提升人居方面的努力和成就给予了高度评价。她用牢固 （solid） 和创新 （innovative） 两个关键词来形容中国与联合国人居署的合作。她还谈到去年上任之后的中国之行令她印象深刻，希望世界可以更多借鉴中国的城镇化与城乡融合的发展经验。 好，感谢您收看本期高端访谈，我是王冠，我们下期再会。